Welcome back, and today our topic is on the nucleus as well as its anatomy, its physiology, as well as relatable structures such as DNA and RNA. So, here on the left, we will be talking about the anatomy or the structural components of the nucleus, while on the right, we'll be talking about the physiology or the functionality, what it does, what it can do. And so this thing over here that we have a picture of, this whole thing is what we would call the nucleus. So it is a structure in the cell that is membrane bound. So it is considered a organelle. And its function is to be a blueprint. So whatever the cell needs help with, whether it's the cell really or just any living organism, this will provide the ability to provide instructions and maybe even assistance for the cell or living organism to do its job. So as mentioned before, the nucleus is a organelle, so it's membrane bound. And because of this, we are going to go and discuss right now about its membranes because it has two very important membranes. One being the outermost, being called the nuclear envelope, and the other innermost being considered the nuclear lamina. And out on the membrane, you can find pores called the nuclear pores. And we'll get right into seeing what all of these do for the nucleus. Now, the nuclear envelope is a very good barrier between the nucleus and what's inside of it and the rest of the cell. It is kind of like the plasma membrane of a cell. It provides a bit of a barrier. Now, the pores are very important, and we'll mention them again later on, but they're used for providing an ability for the RNA to be able to leave outside of the nucleus. Now, the innermost layer, or the nuclear lamina, is a good structural support system. So it provides the shape of the nucleus and its structural support as well. And it is, as I mentioned, the innermost membrane. And so now we go to DNA, which is probably something very important that you've heard about both the cell and the nucleus. Now over here, we would hope to see a better picture of DNA, but it's not a very good image for that. But let's imagine there is DNA. DNA is really where the blueprint is held. So it's actually the paper with all the building instructions, the what the building looks like in the future when it's built. So it's really the actual blueprint itself. It is what we would consider a double helix, which is more of a twisted ladder. So if you imagine the outside being made out of phosphate and sugar, and the inside being made out of nitrogen nucleotide bases, we can imagine that there is some sort of twisted ladder here, or a double helix. So it's made out of phosphate, sugar, and nitrogen. Now, it's important to note what DNA actually stands for. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. And so the deoxyribo is saying that there is no oxygen, or deoxyribo is the name of the sugar, so no oxygen in the sugar. Nucleic acid is really what they're trying to say is that the nucleotides, which are what make up the little rungs of the ladder, are actually the building blocks of a nucleic acid. So DNA, which is a nucleic acid, is built out of nucleotides, which are these nitrogen bases. And these nitrogen bases are 4 different but very specific types. One being adenine, or A, the other being guanine, or G, the third one being cytosine, or C, and the fourth being thymine, or T. Now, this is very important because DNA is a pattern that can be coded into protein or polypeptides. Specific orders of these 4 nucleotides, adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine, result in different but very unique structures that are proteins or polypeptides. These are what make up you as a human and what make up any living thing out there. So now, one very important thing to note is that many people probably have it in their minds that all DNA at all times is a chromosome. There's 2 big differences between what a DNA looks like at a certain time. Now, these 2 differences are found in when a DNA is in chromosome form or chromatin form, and when it is in a chromosome form. Now, chromatin is the uncoiled, uncondensed version of DNA. This is what DNA looks like majority of the time, and when it's in the stretched out version, it is actually 6 feet long. And so chromosomes, which are what majority of the people think about when they think of DNA, is the condensed version of DNA. So it is coiled up and it is condensed. And it goes in its own unique shape, which kind of looks like it looks like a block letter X. And this type of DNA is mainly found when the cell is about to undergo mitosis or meiosis, which is the replication and reproduction of cells. So now we are traveling further into the cell or the nucleus for that matter. We're traveling further into the nucleus past the DNA when we reach a region that is called the nucleolus. Now, this nucleolus is not an organelle. And it is simply just an area where RNA gather. Now you may be wondering, what is RNA? Now RNA is inside of the nucleolus, and it is simply just a single-stranded piece of DNA. It is a replicated version of DNA, though. DNA, on the other hand, is a little bit different than RNA. One difference is in the name. RNA, as you can see, is very similar to DNA, as it has an N and an A, meaning that it is a nucleic acid. This means that both DNA and RNA are made out of the same nucleotide nitrogen bases. except for one difference, and that is that instead of having a thymine, RNA is made out of uracil. Beyond this, another big difference can be found in the name. The R in RNA stands for ribose, for the ribonucleic acid. Now, you can see that in DNA, it's deoxyribonucleic acid, whereas here, it's just ribonucleic acid. This means that it does contain oxygen in the sugar. Now, RNA is able to leave the nucleus through the nuclear pores, and by doing this, it is able to reach the ribosomes, where it is able to be decoded and made into proteins or polypeptides. An important fact to note is the fact that ribosomes themselves are made out of a type of RNA. And in total, there are 3 types of RNA. And so that concludes our video for today. I'd like to thank you for watching this video, and don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, and share for future videos and more content.